we have already discussed the details of the question and the details of the graph. So let us start solving it now. For the yield strength, yield stress, from here you find the value to be 405 of the load or the force. So force divided by area, 0.03 into 0.5, right? So this is the yield stress, 27,000 psi. The strain at yield, 0.0018 is the extension divided by 2. So 0.0018 divided by 2, 9 into 10 raised to minus 4. This is the strain at yield point. Now if you want to find the elastic modulus, if you take from here to here the straight line, right, then the stress here minus the stress here upon the strain here minus the strain here. Now here the stress and the strain are both 0, right? So yield point is stress at yield minus 0 upon strain at yield minus 0. Stress at yield is 27,000. Strain at yield is 9 into 10 raised to minus 4. You get 30 into 10 raised to 6 psi, right? You can also write 30 m psi, mega psi. So this is 30 million psi. So this is you can also write 30,000 kilo psi, which is ksi, right? 10 raised to 6, 10 raised to 3 is 1,000, so it becomes 30,000 ksi, kilo psi. So whatever way you want to write it, you want to write it as 30 mega psi, 30 into 10 raised to 6 psi, or 30,000 ksi. So this is the yield point. Okay, the ultimate point is here. The ultimate 745 is the load. So divide 745 by the cross sectional area. The ultimate strength is 49,700 psi. So this part A, what is the elastic modulus, the Young's modulus, and what is the ultimate strength, right? Now in part B, the plastic part of the strain at fracture, right? So let me explain it to you, though there was a hint that at any point in the plastic, this is the elastic region, not here, but here, anywhere, the total strain is a sum of the elastic strain plus the plastic strain. So here, for example, when you are at the fracture point, if you drop a vertical line, you get the point 0.8. So 0.8 is given as the extension at fracture. If you divide 0.8 by 2, you get the strain at fracture. This is the total strain at fracture. But as soon as you remove the load, some of the stress or strain will go away. Some of the strain will go away, right? And this total minus whatever is gone goes away is the plastic part. So I have drawn this diagram for you, that this is the curve, this is the failure point, fracture point. So drop a vertical line, this is the total, but then make a line which is parallel to the initial straight line. Make a line which is parallel to the initial straight line. So here will be the total strain which will be remaining after the load is removed. At the time the load is there, all this is the total one. So all this is 0.8 upon 2, right, from here till here. So from here, this is the elastic part, epsilon elastic of the fracture point, and this is the epsilon plastic of the fracture point, right? So find the total, which is nothing, 0.8 divided by 2. So total is 0.4 epsilon f. For this one, this is a triangle, this one is triangle, and it is the same as the initial triangle, right? Sigma is equal to E epsilon. Whenever there is a straight line, the equation is sigma is equal to E epsilon. So, right, so the epsilon is sigma upon E, right? So you find the sigma at fracture, 440 upon the cross sectional area. So sigma at fracture, 440 upon cross sectional area, is this 29333.33, right? So this is the sigma f. So here sigma f is 2933, and E you have just found. 30 into 10 raised to 6. So divide this by 30 into 10 raised to 6. You get the elastic part of the strain at fracture. Elastic part as 9.78 into 10 raised to minus 4. Do you understand? Right? This is this portion. The total strain is the elastic strain plus the plastic strain. And the elastic strain is found by the straight line equation sigma is equal to E epsilon. So that was 9.78 into 10 raised to minus 4. So of course the plastic part is simply the total strain here minus the elastic part. The total, right? The total strain was 0.4 and this is this one. So this minus this is becomes 0.399. So this is very close to 0.4. Of course, the elastic portion is always a very small region. So 0.399, if you round it off, it will be 4.4, but that will be wrong, right? 0.4 is the total strain at fracture, and 0.399 is the plastic portion of the strain at fracture. So this only last one was a point where I am challenging you a little, that all the other, find the E value, find the ultimate value, find the stress at fracture, those things should have been simple. But if you went through the chapter very carefully, and we have done these type of examples and so on, we are explaining that in the plastic region what is happening, that the stress strain is always some elastic and some plastic. So when you remove the load, then the elastic part of the strain goes away. That is called the elastic recovery, and the permanent one is called the plastic strain and so on. So this was hopefully an interesting problem, and those of you who got it totally right should be very, very happy, right? Because you see, it gives you a lot of confidence and happiness that you have done something really worthwhile. So if this portion, this last portion of this question, those of you who got it totally right should feel very good if you really understood it, right? So then it means that about the stress strain diagram and about the mechanical properties of metals, your understanding is good. Let us go to the next question, question 4. In the mid, XRD, X-ray diffraction, is done on chromium using monochromatic X-rays of 0.0711 nanometer wavelength. What will be the diffraction angle from the 310 set of planes? So if you remember XRD, if you are good in it, XRD is being done, the metal is chromium, the wavelength of the X-rays is given, the plane from which the diffraction is being done, 310, is given. What will be the diffraction angle? So it is not a complicated thing. It is not a complicated thing. In the formula table, formula sheet, there are some tables also for values of different materials. So the radius and so on, for example, of chromium will be found from the formula sheet, not from any other source. Remember, you sign an honor statement. This is, I have reminded you, a huge big thing. This is your honor, right? In front of Allah Ta'ala, you are saying that I will not take help during any quiz or any exam from anywhere, from internet, from the book, from the notes. No, I will only look at the exam and I will only look at the formula sheet and tables. And that is it. This is my honor, Ya Allah. So this is big. So otherwise, of course, you can go to the internet, you can go into the book and so on. But the formula sheet is given with tables of certain material properties. Okay. Let us see the question solution now. Remember, the values that you need, some extra values from here, will be from the table, formula sheets and tables. Formula sheets and tables. So from one of the tables, you find that chromium has a radius, atomic radius of 0.1249 nanometer. And there are FCC, BCC tables there also in the formula sheet. So you find that chromium is in the BCC list. Chromium is in the BCC list. If it is in the BCC list, then there are two things automatically that you write for yourself. A is equal to 4R upon root 3. And number of equivalent atoms is 2 atoms per unit cell. Right? So these two are, because chromium is in the BCC list on the formula sheet, A is equal to 4R upon root 3. And for BCC, equivalent number of atoms in a unit cell is 2 atoms. So now you start solving. This is already given. DHKL is equal to A upon H squared plus K squared plus L squared, the interplanar distance, right? Interplanar. Now A is 4R upon root 3 and the rest is there. So for R, you put the value 0.1249 nanometer, and for HKL, the plane is given 310. So 3 squared, 1 squared, 0 squared. So you solve it, you get 0.0912 nanometer. This is the D310, 0.0912 nanometer. The only other equation in the XRD is the Bragg's law, n lambda is equal to 2d sine theta. Now, if they said diffraction from the second set of planes, then n is equal to 2. But if they just say from the 310 set of planes, then of course the strongest reflection is from the first plane. So n is equal to always 1 unless it is specifically said that n has some other value. So n is equal to 1. Lambda is given in the problem. Lambda is given. What is the wavelength? So lambda is given, right? And d you have just found out, 0.0912. So this value is given, this is given, this is given, this is given. From here you find sine theta. Sine theta is 0.3898. You take inverse sine and you get theta is equal to 22.94 degrees. 22.94 degrees. They have asked diffraction angle. So don't leave the answer there. You should know that diffraction angle is always 2 theta. Diffraction angle is always 2 theta. So you multiply it by 2 and you get 45.88 degrees. So this is the answer of the diffraction angle part, right? If you have done all the things correctly and you have left it there, all your things are correct, but this is not the diffraction angle. Diffraction angle is 2 theta, right? So there will be a small deduction if you leave it there. Now let me just remind you that two things. One is that you see, if you solved this problem correctly, this last part, then you should be very happy with yourself. You should be very confident that mechanical properties of metals you have really understood very well with the diffraction part of it, XRD diffraction, right? So you should be very happy and very confident, and this should give you a lot of confidence. On the other hand, you should have done it totally independently. You see, in the beginning of the semester, you have signed an honor statement. Honor is a huge, big thing. You are saying, Ya Allah. You see, He is there. He is seeing you when you are signing that honor statement. And you are writing there that, Ya Allah, during any quiz, during any exam, I will consult only the question paper and the formula sheet with its property tables. I will not look into the book, not into the notes, not into the internet. I will not talk to anybody. That is your honor. So that is a huge, big thing, mashallah. So if you have done it completely yourself and you have looked only at the question paper and at the formula sheet and you have solved this 4A very correctly, then you should be really happy that you have, inshallah, learned the course very well. Let us go to the second part, 4B. Determine the Miller indices of the cubic crystal plane that passes through the following points: half 0 half, 0 0 1, 1 1 1. Sketch the plane and show all steps and distances. So it is a cubic plane, right? FCC, BCC, whatever it is a cubic plane. And in the cubic plane, you have to find the Miller indices. So it means a plane is there. Now this plane, we are not given what is the x-intercept, y-intercept. There are 3 points on the plane which are given. There are 3 points on the plane which are given. So draw the cube. On the cube, draw these 3 points. Connect these 3 points. So the plane is on these 3 points. Of course, you will have to do a little more than that. You will not be able to just join the points and you will get the plane. You will get part of the plane, but it will not be the complete plane. But this is it, that this is just one question. This is just one question, that there is a cube and on the cube there are 3 points given. Join those 3 points and see what type of plane it makes. Okay, so let us see as we solve it further.